Good day, grade 11 learners, and welcome to this video where we will be looking at section A questions of paper 2 in your final exam. Just a brief recap on the topics which you are going to be studying for your paper 2 of your final exams. The topics that you should be studying is biodiversity and the classification of microorganisms, biodiversity in plants and reproduction, biodiversity of animals, population ecology, and lastly, human impact on the environment. These are the 5 topics that you should be studying for paper 2 of your life sciences final exam. Remember that the grand total of the paper comes to 150 marks and the duration of the paper is 2 hours and 30 minutes. If we look at our first question 1.1, it states various options are provided as possible answers to the following questions. Choose the correct answer and write only the letter A to D next to the question number in your answer book. For example, 1.1.11, if your answer is D, you'll simply write D next to the question number. Just a reminder that you do not write more than one letter next to a question number. The examiner will not be able to mark more than one correct letter. You therefore need to make up your mind and only write one correct letter next to the question number. The first question, 1.1.1, all of the following increases intraspecific competition. What is intraspecific competition? It's competition that occurs between the same species. So all of the following increases intraspecific competition except too much food, lack of water, too little space, too few mates. So you notice that the lack of water, it does increase competition. Too little space does increase competition. Too few mates does increase competition. But too much food, this does not increase competition because competition won't even occur because there is enough food for everyone to survive. Therefore, the answer is A. 1.1.2, study the plant groups listed below. You have bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, and angiosperms. In which of the following do male gametes depend on water to swim towards the ovum? In which of the following do male gametes depend on water? So in each of these plant groups, which of these divisions are dependent on water for fertilization? It's only the bryophyta and the pteridophyta. Gymnosperms and angiosperms do not depend on water because they reproduce using seeds. So we look at the options. A says number 1 and number 2. Yes, that's correct. B says number 2 only. No, it's not only number 2. C said 1 only, not only bryophytes. D, number 3 and number 4. These two are incorrect. Therefore, the correct answer is A. Next question. A closed blood system is found in. A closed blood system. Insecta. Remember that Insecta is going to be forming part of the phylum Arthropoda, Annelida, Cnidaria, and Porifera. The only one that is going to have a closed blood system is going to be B, the Annelida. Next, the transfer of pollen grains within the same flower is referred to as self-pollination, cross-pollination, fertilization, meiosis. When you transfer pollen from the anther in the same flower to the stigma in the same flower, it's referred to as self-pollination. Therefore, the correct answer is A. Next question states that rabies is a viral disease spread to people by infected animals. A person bitten by an infected animal should be given an injection containing specific antibodies. Following the injection, the person should have, so after the person takes the injection, is it natural active immunity, artificial active immunity, natural passive immunity, or artificial passive immunity? Following the injection, the person should have artificial passive immunity. Therefore, the correct answer is D. Why are we choosing D? Artificial is not a natural process. Passive immunity, that is not the one that's naturally produced by your body. Therefore, we say D, artificial passive immunity. Remember that the person also received an injection containing specific antibodies. That is not a natural process. The sea anemone is radially symmetrical. Radially symmetrical because it can cut in mirror images in one plane only. That is normally for bilateral symmetry. It can be cut in mirror images in two planes only. Bilateral symmetry, we have two planes. It can be cut in mirror images in any vertical plane through its central axis. That is radial symmetry. It has an anterior end and posterior end. No, it does not. That's for bilateral symmetry. Therefore, the correct answer is C. Fertilization in angiosperms occurs when? Fertilization in angiosperms. The pollen tube grows down the style. The pollen tube never grows down the style. Pollen moves from the anther to the stigma. Yes, this one is possibly correct because pollen does move from the anther to the stigma. The ovum enlarges into a fruit. That is not for fertilization. A sperm cell unites with an ovum. This is perfectly explaining fertilization, and that is how fertilization occurs in angiosperms. Therefore, the correct answer is D, and we are not taking B because B was simply a step in the process of reproduction. It was not explaining exactly how fertilization occurs. Fertilization occurs when the sperm cell fuses with the egg cell. In this case, we're saying the sperm cell unites with an ovum, and the ovum is the egg cell, the female sex cell. Which one of the following statements is true about the relationship between a predator and its prey? There's interspecific competition. The size of the predator population is density dependent and is controlled by the size of the prey population. That is possibly correct. An increase in the number of predators leads to an increase in the number of prey. No, that can't be true because you always need more prey than predators. A decreased number of predators leads to a decreased number of prey. No, that cannot be true as well because you always need more prey. You always need more prey at the start. Therefore, the correct answer is, without any doubt, it is going to be B. The following multiple choice question is based around a scientific investigation. Please make sure you're able to answer something like this because it's really testing your knowledge of understanding the scientific investigative process. So it reads, a group of grade 11 learners decided to carry out a survey to see how many people in the community suffered from malaria. Below are the steps, not in order, which they followed during the survey. They went to the clinic to get information on the number of people treated for malaria on a monthly basis. They made some conclusions based on the results. They drew up sheets to record the results. They analyzed the results and represented the information in the graphs. They planned how they were going to carry out the survey. You see, all the steps are jumbled up. Write the letter that indicates the correct sequence of the steps involved in conducting the survey. So if we go to A, number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's definitely incorrect because we saw that the order was wrong. Number 4, 5, 2, 3, 1. So number 4, they analyze the results. You can never start with analyzing the results, so automatically that's wrong. C says 5, 3, 1. Number 5, they planned how they were going to carry it out. That sounds correct. Number 3, they drew up sheets to record. Yes. Number 1, they went to the clinic to get information. Number 4, they analyzed the results. And then lastly, number 2, they made some conclusions. That sounds about correct, possibly correct. Put a tick next to it. Let's go to the last one, D, 5, 3, 1. They planned how they were going to carry out. Yes. Number 3, they drew up sheets, possibly correct. Number 1, they went to the clinic. Yes. And then number 2, they made some conclusions. And number 4, they analyzed. You can't make conclusions before you analyze your results. You must analyze your results first. Therefore, D is incorrect. And the correct answer for this question is C. The list below describes viruses. They are the major pathogens of humans. They play a significant role as decomposers. They are obligate endoparasites that reproduce within host cells. Which of the following are of biological importance in viruses? Number 1 and number 2 are major pathogens, play a significant role as decomposers. Viruses do not play a significant role as decomposers. That is not one of their characteristics. Therefore, A cannot be correct. Number 1, number 3, and number 4. Number 1, number 3, and number 4. Yes, that could possibly be right. Number 2 and number 3. Not only number 2 and number 3, because they do also reproduce within a host. Number 2 and number 4. Can't only take number 2 and number 4, because number 3 is also applicable. Therefore, the correct answer is B. Which one of the following represents density-dependent and density-independent factors respectively? Remember, density-dependent factors are dependent on population size. Density-independent factors will come into play regardless of what the size of the population is. So, A says density-dependent, disease and competition. That is density-dependent. Flood and drought is density-independent. Fire and food. Fire is not density-dependent factor, so no. Food supply is not density-dependent. Food supply and disease could possibly be correct, because disease and shortage of food can be density-dependent. Competition and predation, totally incorrect, because competition is going to be a density-dependent factor, and predation as well. Competition and fire. Fire is not density dependent. Flood and drought is correct, but because of this, it makes the entire statement incorrect. Therefore, the correct option is going to be A. Next question, 1.2 says give the correct biological term for each of the following descriptions, and you write only the term next to the question number in the answer book. 1.2.1 different species living in the same habitat but use resources differently is regarded as resource partitioning. 1.2.2 the gut that runs through an organism with one opening is regarded as the blind gut. 1.2.3 the illegal hunting or removal of organisms is regarded as poaching. You would have learned about that in human impact on the environment. 1.2.4 symmetry found in periphery. The type of symmetry found in periphery is asymmetry. 1.2.5 the dominant generation in the life cycle of ferns. Remember that the only plant division that has the gametophyte generation is the bryophyta. All other plant divisions, the pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms, have the sporophyte generation dominant. We are looking at the life cycle of ferns, therefore the answer is sporophyte. 1.2.6 the concentration of sense organs at the anterior end of an animal leading to the formation of a head. That is referred to as cephalization. 1.2.7 gases which contribute to the heating of the atmosphere. That gases that cause the atmosphere to become hot is referred to as greenhouse gases. 1.2.8 the close relationship between two organisms where both organisms benefit is regarded as mutualism. 1.2.9 the male whorl of the flower, this is referring to the male reproductive structure, is referred to as the stamen. The next list of terminology, 1.2.1, the type of alimentary canal which stretches from the mouth to the anus is referred to as the through gut, because you have two openings, the mouth and the anus. A type of reproduction that involves only one parent. Remember, there's two types of reproduction. It's sexual and asexual reproduction. The type of reproduction only involving one parent is asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is the one that involves two parents. A natural process that traps heat within the Earth's atmosphere, creating conditions suitable for life. That natural process is referred to as the greenhouse effect. A heart-shaped structure that forms part of the life cycle of ferns is the prothallus. Animals that remain attached to a substrate for most of their lives are sessile. The maximum number of individuals that an area can support is regarded as the area's carrying capacity that you would have learned in population ecology. A symbiotic relationship in which one organism benefits while the other one is harmed. Remember, there are three symbiotic relationships: mutualism, commensalism, parasitism. The one where one benefits and the other one is harmed is regarded as parasitism. A form of cell division which only occurs during sexual reproduction. There's two types of cell division: mitosis and meiosis. Meiosis is the type of cell division that is going to occur during sexual reproduction. The dominant generation in flowering plants, as I've mentioned earlier on, all plant divisions besides Bryophyta has the sporophyte generation as the dominant generation. Therefore, the dominant generation in flowering plants is the sporophyte generation. Next question, 1.3, we are indicating whether each of the following statements in column 1 applies to A only, B only, both A and B, or none of the items in column 2. You're writing A only, B only, both A and B, or none next to the question number. You answer the question exactly according to the instruction that is given to you here. So 1.3.1, root-like structures in mosses, thallus, hyphae. None of them are root-like structures, therefore the answer is none. 1.3.2, all animals in this phylum are sessile, peripheral, and annelida. Only one in which it's sessile is going to be A, peripheral. The loss of biodiversity, gulfy states and mining. If we create gulfy states or if we clear out a certain area to mine there, then obviously we are going to cause a loss of biodiversity. Therefore, the answer is both A and B. 1.3.4, ozone depletion. Ozone depletion is that process where you're going to have holes in the ozone layer, the thinning of the ozone layer. What causes that? Chlorofluorocarbons as well as hydrochlorofluorocarbons. They both contribute to it. Therefore, the answer is both A and B. The next list of 1.3, part that is formed from a fertilized ovule. When that ovule is fertilized, does it form a seed or does it form a fruit? It forms a seed, so therefore it is A only. The factor that decreases water availability, destruction of wetlands, alien plants, both A and B. Because when destruction of a wetland removes water in that area, alien plants can pose a threat because they may consume large amounts of water, leaving no water available for the rest of the plants and crops that require the water. 1.3.3, competition between cows and goats for grass. So cows and goats for grass. We know that cows and goats are different animals. Therefore, it is interspecific competition because it's competition between two different animals. It's not intraspecific because they are not the same species. Therefore, the answer is A only. The next question, 1.4, we are studying two population growth curves below. You have learned about this in population ecology. You see that the first graph looks more like the logistic growth curve. The second one looks more like the geometric growth curve. 1.4.1, we're providing labels for the phases. B, you see it's only one mark for giving the labels. So B, you look at this phase here, is regarded as the second phase in the logistic growth curve, which is going to be the accelerating or exponential growth phase. Next C, the section here is going to be regarded as the decelerating growth phase. Lastly, E, the section here in graph 2 where everything goes down, is regarded as the death or extinction phase. 1.4.2, we are naming the type of growth form represented in graph 1. So the type of growth form represented here, it's an S-shaped curve, therefore it's regarded as the logistic growth curve. 1.4.3, which growth curve would represent the growth of a bacteria colony? Bacteria colony. A bacteria colony is only going to experience two phases of growth, the lag phase and accelerating growth phase. Therefore, the answer will be graph 2. Because bacteria, they grow and multiply rapidly. Therefore, we are saying graph 2. 1.4.4, we are giving the letter of the phase where the birth rate equals the death rate. The birth rate is generally equal to the death rate in the equilibrium phase. And this is illustrating the equilibrium phase, therefore we take D. Natality exceeds mortality by far. Natality is always greater than mortality in the accelerating growth phase or exponential growth phase, therefore B is the correct answer. 1.4.5, what do the arrows in graph 1 represent? These arrows in graph 1 is representing environmental resistance. Give two reasons why the initial phase A starts slowly. Why does A start slowly for 2 marks? So firstly, the population must still adapt to their new environment. The population is still very small and organisms still need to become sexually mature, and then later on they're going to start looking for their sexual partners. Any two of these statements would have given you 2 marks for 1.4.6. Question 1.5 says the following graph shows the averages of carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere between January 2009 and 2013 as measured at the Mauna Loa Observatory in Hawaii. So you have your carbon dioxide concentration, you have your time in years, and as you can see, the graph is increasing. So firstly, 1.5.1, you are going to mention one human activity that might have led to the increase in carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere. For 1 mark, what would have caused the increase in carbon dioxide concentration? So we burn fossil fuels, we undergo the process of deforestation, and we drive our cars. Any of those things would have been correct. 1.5.2, what was the carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere in July 2012? So here we have 2012. We go and read from the graph for 2 marks. We would have come to 395.5 parts per million. Where do I get that from? Here is the unit of measurement for the dependent variable. You need to place the unit of measurement there as well, because 2 marks, 1 mark for the correct answer and 1 mark for the unit of measurement. The examiner would have accepted 390 to 396 because it's a little bit difficult to read from the graph. So anything in that range, you would have gotten a correct answer. 1.5.3, mention 2 ways in which humans can reduce the amount of carbon dioxide released. 2 things we can do to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide. We can use public transport instead of driving a car. We can plant trees. We can use light bulbs that are carbon friendly. We can use alternative sources of energy. There are numerous things that we can do. Any 2 that are correct, you would have gotten 2 marks. The next question is also 1.5, which states the data in the graph below represents the number of springbuck and cheetah in the Namakwa Game Reserve over 65 years. The springbuck is the natural prey of cheetah. The natural carry capacity for springbuck in this reserve is 325. After this number was exceeded, the management of the reserve decided to introduce a culling program. The graph showing the springbuck and cheetah populations in the Namakwa Game Reserve from 1955 to 2020. You see you have your number of animals, your years, and you have the 2 graphs, graphs A and graph B. The first question, 1.5.1, says name the relationship between the cheetahs and the springbok. So you see there's a certain type of relationship occurring there. Based on the graph, we can see without any doubt that this type of relationship is predation. So 1.5.1, type of relationship is predation. 1.5.2, you're going to provide a definition for the following word, carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is represented by this dotted line. What does that show you? It's the maximum number of individuals that this environment can support. Maximum population size that the ecosystem can support. 1.5.3, which line A or B represents the cheetah population? So you'd have remembered in the statement that we read earlier on, before we looked at the graph, it stated that the springbuck is the prey of the cheetah, which means that the cheetah is the predator. If you are looking at the predator and prey relationship in a graph, the prey is always going to be the graph that lies on top. Predator is always the graph that lies at the bottom because the prey population must normally be higher for predation to occur. Cheetah is the predator, therefore we are selecting A because A is the line that lies at the bottom. B is on top, therefore the springbuck is going to be the prey. Between which years did the springbuck population exceed the carrying capacity? So springbuck is B. Which years did it exceed carrying capacity? This dotted line represents carrying capacity. So which years? We see these are the years that we're looking at. Therefore, it is going to be 1990 to 1995. 1990 and 1995. 1.5.5, in which year was the culling program introduced for springbuck according to the graph? So you would have seen 1995. Why? Because the culling program was introduced, which caused it to drop, caused the prey population now to drop back down to below carrying capacity. After 1995, it dropped back down. Name one other density-dependent factor besides predation that could naturally reduce the springbuck population. So there are a number of density-dependent factors. You could say disease, competition for food, water, space, shelter. Those are density-dependent factors. Things that are dependent on population size. They will come into effect if the population size changes. Just a quick recap, when you are studying for paper 2, these are the topics which you are studying: biodiversity and classification of microorganisms, biodiversity in plants and reproduction, biodiversity of animals, population ecology, human impact on the environment. This brings us to the end of this video on section A. Please make sure you are having a look at the questions I've compiled for revision purposes, where I'm going to be taking questions from previous exam question papers for section B. I'll revise each topic individually, very similar to how it went about in the videos for paper 1. Thank you very much for taking your time to watch this video. I hope to have you all join me in the revision videos for section B as well.